Good evening. Welcome to Follow Everton. Tonight, I've got Yandelf with me. How are you, Yandelf?
I'm amazing. I'm a little bit hoarse from an earlier recording, but I'm good. How are you?
I heard it. It's gone viral, hasn't it? Of course.
It's mental. It's absolutely unbelievable already. Yeah.
And obviously, we're talking about the Crystal Palace game on Thursday, which is arguably the biggest game in a generation. Unfortunately, really, I mean, it is ultimately annoying that it is the biggest game, and we're not talking about a cup final or something like that. We are talking about a game to potentially keep Everton in the league, and it's inspirational, the words you've put forward, but we need a lot more than the poem. I think on Thursday we need 40,000 angry Evertonians singing their hearts out, and really, we can't let matters on the pitch dictate our mood against Brentford. We've got to keep behind the team because they do play a lot better when they've got that lift from us
I
behind
know
them.
it was very difficult for me to be. Some of you may know, some of you may not. I was invited into the director's box and had the absolute pleasure of sitting next to Peter Reid watching the match, and it was something else to see, like the cauldron, to see the whole atmosphere and the park end and the street end. Just it was like I was watching the biggest theatre performance of my life with everyone playing a part. And part of me, part of me felt like an imposter because I wanted to be sat next to my dad in with the fans in the lower Bullens where I normally sit,
Yeah.
like giving it welly. Because every time I sort of stood up and screamed and swore and shouted, I was thinking, oh, but all the lovely people dressed in suits, but it was nice to have Peter Reid next to me going like, fuck you, it stinks. And I'm like, okay, all right, yeah, cool. I'm in
Was
good
he really
company here.
kicking off as well?
Oh yes. Like, he's from Huyton, isn't he? So he's a blue through and through. And he's a fan as much as a player and a legend and everything. And it was phenomenal.
I was going to
But
ask you about this. I really was going to probe you, but I didn't know how much
it's,
to. So, guys, I know you're here for the Crystal Palace preview, but we're shelving that just for a couple of minutes because I
no.
need to interrogate Jan on his experience at Goodison and Brentford. Result aside, and obviously highly controversial, we should have
Yeah.
had the penalty on Richarlison, which negates the red card, which in fact potentially we go 2-0. We win the game comfortably. I've got no doubt about it. But
Yeah,
in
and
terms
Branthwaite.
of, sorry, go on.
Well, and Branthwaite, if we were 2-0 up, it might not have felt that pressure to have, made contact or in some way. It's, Keith Hackett has come out and said things. And I know in the poem that I just released earlier, I realised that I'm being a bit contentious, pointing out what all, the rest of the country seems to be able to see. And you want to get people on side, whether it's the FA or the PGMOL and stuff, because you want them to feel a kindness. You don't want to feel like they're going to enemy territory, but it's how we've been treated throughout the entire season. So what do you do? And when it becomes us against the world, then fuck it, why
Yeah,
not?
no, you can swear on the channel. But you
Oh,
know what?
sound.
The reality is it made so many mistakes in these
Mm.
games. I've got Stevie's just making an appearance in the thing. He's coming on. I'll bring him in one sec.
Mm.
But so many mistakes. The referees. I mean, I think about John Joe Shelby with a red card challenge, at Goodison, Tarkovsky injuring Richarlison, a penalty at home to Spurs that was taken back when he didn't win the ball, penalty away at Southampton that wasn't given for handball. I mean, a penalty with a push on Calvert Richarlison, sorry, Anthony Gordon at Anfield, the handball from Rodri, which could actually become crucial. There is probably another dozen examples, but I'm reading them off the top of my head. And it was just more and more of a corrupt sort of difficult mistake. I bring in Stevie. I know I want to talk to you, Yandalf, about your experience. Stevie, the referees, and you get a feeling that everything in the Premier League this season is designed to engineer the sport right down to the fact, let's get the title race, let's get top four, and let's get all the relegation right down to the final day. There is an element to that, isn't it? It feels almost like WWE to some extent, where everything's extremely falsified for entertainment, but the only people who don't enjoy it are the clubs that are involved.
Hi, Yandolf. Hi, Ryan.
Thanks, dude.
I just got back to to London from the game, really. But yeah,
He's just left Goodison now.
yeah, I wish I'd stayed up for the Thursday match. I think that there's an element where it feels like we've been hard done by a lot of decisions that have gone against us. And normally they sort of balance themselves out over time. In the last few games, there's been one or two things that have gone for us, but I think the viewpoint is that we only focus on the negatives. And obviously, what happened on Sunday was very unforgivable. You know, with the Richarlison thing, and it doesn't look. I don't know if you've actually zoomed in. It doesn't look like the referee's actually looking at what was happening there.
He was actually only about 3 yards away from it, so I don't know, what was he looking at, perhaps?
It does beg the question of why can't we hear? Why is there not the transparency like they have in rugby for the conversations?
It's because of the swearing, isn't it? I mean, but I don't think there's an excuse. I think then the answer is, well, if you're swearing, we either delay the audio slightly, possibly, and beep that out. But they're obviously swearing in foreign languages. But I think it takes some accountability away from them, the fact they're not able to give interviews and not able to do that and can effectively do what they want. Make mistakes. It's the only job in the world where you can make mistakes and get away with it. But why do the players not get booked then for swearing? Whatever language, you get a yellow card for swearing, and it will very quickly, eradicate from the game, because we're all sat and you remember recently at Yandalf, obviously season ticket holder like myself, you'll have seen on the big screen they were showing a lot of those decisions. They were actually showing them, and it was interesting that they didn't show. They've stopped showing some of these contentious ones on the big screen. Which for me is another way of kind of hiding behind everything. Can I ask you though, just before we talk more about Palace and obviously referees, etc., etc., can I ask you about the experience at Goodison? So you were welcomed in. Were you at the Joe Mercer suite or were you at Dixie Dean suite?
I was in neither suite. I was in the director's dining room. It was. I know. I went in. I went to the VIP ticket collection. I said, here to collect a ticket. Gave my name and everything, and they said, "Oh no, you're in the other door." I was like, "Ooh, okay." So I went in, and it was, they opened the door, and it was so surreal that. Obviously, I've been in there when I've done a stadium tour, but to see it on a match day, the buzz, the electricity, and obviously I'm talking about it and recounting it as if I was there before the match and before the result was what it was, and to have that sort of juxtaposition of the excitement and a once in a lifetime opportunity compared to the huge disappointment. But it was incredible. Go in and collect the ticket, get given a lanyard that's got nil satis nisi optimum on it, and whisked away upstairs by a sort of by someone who would attend to me personally, make sure I felt welcome because I wasn't part of the usual the inner sanctum, and it was so surreal to have people that recognized me and were talking to me, and I'm like,
who recognized you straight away? People you didn't know?
Security, security,
really?
and door staff and the attendants and backroom staff at the club. They were talking to me and just really, really effusive with their praise and sort of excited to see me. And I was like, this is so surreal. I'm like it was almost as if I was a celebrity.
So you're in the director's dining room. You had a pre-match meal. And who were you sat with for this meal?
I was sat with I don't know whether I'm betrayed. Well, I'm happy to talk about it. They didn't tell me to not say about it. I was sat with a couple of financiers and director of finance, and to my left was Bill, one of Bill Kenwright's cousins, and I was sat with some of the Thelwell family, Kevin's wife and daughter, and it was fantastic. I met.
You let them speak, and you kept your ears wide open, and
enjoyed a lovely meal. But was introduced, and there was a lovely lady called Kim who deals with the sort of VIP section, and Elle, and a lady called Janine, and I so many just wonderful people who like love the club and I mean, it was quite strange to have almost sort of silver service Savoy afternoon tea treatment when I was there, thinking inside, "Come on, the fucking Blues up the top!" Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
But they're all thinking that they're all. So you're invited. By the way, thanks for everyone who's watching, and there's quite a lot of people watching, despite the time, and a lot of comments will come to them. But I'm hanging on every word here, really. So you were invited down, obviously, to your seat. Where did you thought you were going to sit at the back of the director's box?
Well, yeah. I mean, when I was whisked in, I was sent into a sort of the VIP little area, and Peter Reid was in there. It's like, "Would you like to be introduced?" She's like, I was like, "Oh, if you don't mind." She said, "But you're going down to the director's thing. I'm sure you'll see him." And I think she obviously knew I'd be sat next to him. I ended up being sat on the front row. Walked past Bill Kenwright. And I walked past Joe Royle. And then Peter Reid, because I was waiting to get out for Z cars, and I was desperate for the loo, thinking like, I don't want to miss a minute of this. And then Joe Royle cuts in front of me and goes to the toilet, and I was like, I'm not gonna tell him no. His need is greater than mine, and I'm not gonna. Oh, absolutely not. So I get there and I'm walking along the front row and thinking, hang on a minute, this is my seat. And I'm right next to bloody Peter Reid. I'm thinking, fucking hell.
So you were talking to him?
Yeah.
Yeah. So did Bill, obviously, did he introduce himself to you, or did what?
Immediately, he recognised me, like as I was talking to somebody else in the room, and he sort of clapped his arm around me, made me feel very welcome. Because in one of his messages, he said to me, I know it's all very fancy and hoi polloi, but I tried to make it just like my grand's living room 60 years ago, and he really did. Like he's a very affable, likable guy. To talk to, maybe that's the theatrical side, but before the match, he's talking to everyone. We've seen ups and downs, and we've seen some amazing scenes, but one thing really extraordinary is a young poet. And I thought, oh God, oh no. And he got me to read the first poem that went viral to everybody there, and it was something else. I had people sort of clapping me on the back. I had obviously the curator of the largest football memorabilia collection in the world, Lord Grantchester, was talking with me about an interest in poetry. I know there might be split opinions about him, but he said that, we'll see what we can do about getting your poetry included. I was thinking, Christ, do people really think that it's that like important? Like it has.
Mate,
I
been
just thought,
stuck on the front row in the director's box. I mean, clearly the answer is yes. There are no words for it. I mean, that's a once in a lifetime. And I'm hoping if he texts you again and says, "Is anyone else who wants that opportunity?" Me, Steve, or your cousin,
Jasmine,
next in line after your dad, of course. I mean, that's a phenomenal story. Stevie, what would you do? Chop your left bollock off to get in that director's box next to Peter Reid, wouldn't you?
There's some crackling on the line. I think
is it me? No, that's you who's crackling. You're the crackle. You're the crackle. He's crackling.
Yeah, it's not me, I don't think.
No, it's not me. That Steve, you sound like a Dalek. Exterminate.
He's jealous.
Change your camera. Change your mic if you can.
Hey.
Oh no, he's really crackly. Steve, are you on Wi-Fi or are you on 3G or 4G, 5G, 6G, 7G?
Me, I'm on Wi-Fi.
I think it's your signal. I think it's your signal.
Okay, I'll come back in a sec. I'll prove it.
Go on. He sounds like a Dalek. Like in the comments, if you think you're a Dalek. So, are you still going to keep in touch with Will Kenwright? What did he say? You can contact me, etc.
Oh yeah, he said we'll be. I'm pretty sure he said we'll be in touch. Or maybe that was Kevin Thelwell. But he said, if you're a bit nervous, you can bring someone along. And I'd just come back from a LARP event as a member of staff. I'd spent the weekend in the woods dressed as a Viking, battering 7 bells of shit out of players pretending to be Arthurian Christians. So I was really getting into it. There I was in the sun one day, like covered in chainmail and leather armor, and then the next, eating meat around a campfire. And then the next day I'm having fancy, like first class type, wonderful food. But
he said, put some pictures out there, please.
Oh, you know what? I didn't take a single picture.
Did you take any pictures of the game?
No, I was just caught up in it because I was thinking this could be it. This is the moment that we secure it. This is where we stay in the top
No.
flight. Because
So why didn't you? Why? You know, when he said you can take a guest, did you not think of taking your dad with you, or?
well, he was with my cousin, and
But
you know, and not only
you,
that. I mean, my
I
dad was
know,
very
but
pleased for me, and you know, I don't really get that nervous. I can sort of mix in with anybody, and more than that, I mean, most of my friends that were blue were wouldn't have been able to go last minute, and all my other friends are Reds, and I didn't want to pollute our glorious church with the vile heathen
well,
unbelievers.
you'll have to take Dan next time, won't you? You'll have to.
Yeah.
Or, I can think of someone actually who'd love to go to the game. He'd probably, honestly, Dan. Obviously, Dan from the channel who doesn't get to go. You know, he would have been perfect.
Yeah.
If you're in contact with Bill Kenwright and he invites you again and say you can bring a friend. But honestly, congratulations, that's phenomenal. And you'd fully deserve that, in my opinion, 100%.
Yeah, he's the Lionel Messi of poetry. I knew this guy was gifted as soon as I heard the first front.
He's the Robbie Burns of Merseyside.
It escalated quite quickly, and to get on the front row of the director's box shows how passionate first of all Kenwright is, and also how receptive the club are to people's club duties and just being there for fans and supporting people. We've all been going through difficult times this year, and it's great to see. And great.
Did you get any signed memorabilia?
I didn't have the cheek to ask, but as I had a program, there's a very limited sort of board. I could show some of it to you if you want.
Go on.
Oh, go on then.
Been in that boardroom, Ryan. The interesting thing is sometimes when you're in the celebrity company, and I spent several hours on a train with Jack Charlton, is you just feel a bit too embarrassed to talk
in
about.
Fairness, though, they would send you a signed shirt. I mean, I emailed them, asked them to. I sent my obviously your cousin, my partner, gave me an Everton shirt for my birthday in November with my name and number on the back, and I sent it into the club, and
we'll have shirts being sent in tomorrow morning. That badge is worth it alone.
Yeah, that was incredible. And these are very limited. I got told by a member of staff there who keep hold of that.
You sat in the boardroom.
What is in that?
It's a program holder.
Ridiculous. I mean, unbelievable. But all I was saying was that I sent my shirt in. They returned it fully signed. So, yeah, there you go. It's been signed. So who signed it then?
Well, I was sat next to.
They're good with that. They will send you something out.
Oh yeah, it was. I was just as I was at the match. I was as I was sat down next to Peter Reid. I said, "I hope you don't mind, Peter. It might be a bit cheeky. Do you mind signing this for me?" He said, "Oh, don't be daft, lad. Yeah, of course." So he said, "Do you want Joe to sign it too?" He said, "Yeah, Joe, sign this." and then as I was leaving as well, there was Graham Stewart. And I thought, well, he didn't look in the best spirits, but I said, "Excuse me, Graham, would you mind signing the programme?" He said, "Yeah, of course." And I met his son as well, who's absolutely lovely. Like, everyone there is just fantastic, phenomenal.
But obviously, the result was a shambles. So what was the atmosphere in
Graham
there?
Sharp. I'm so sorry, Graham Sharp. I'm just completely overwhelmed. Graham Sharp. Did I say? Where did I?
Graham Stewart. Were they all really raging? I mean, because obviously in the park end, Lower Bullins, top balcony, obviously where we sit, these you can't really ascertain what's going on in that sort of director's box. So I'm intrigued to know sort of what was the atmosphere like. Is it like sitting with fans, or is it very corporate? Everyone's silent, or do they sing? What is it like in there?
Okay, well, as soon as I went in, they had the Man City game on, and everyone's there eating the dinner, watching the football. It's like it was better than being at home watching because at home, or if I could sort of go around my parents and watch it with my dad or anything, it's like, oh, eat your dinner, conversation, stop looking at the football. Whereas everyone there is just eyes glued to the TV, and when City scored, everyone's like, ah! It is like really? Being among fans. Yeah.
Is it? Yeah. But what about in the actual box? Are they singing like the fans?
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Maybe he doesn't think it.
It wasn't when I went.
Oh.
No, yeah, sorry.
Everyone
it's a private joke.
remake.
Steve, your signal's dreadful. Are you on Wi-Fi? It's a breaking up, or I can see you perfectly, but can't hear you very well.
I'll go and find a headset.
No,
I mean,
it's not that. I can hear you now. I can hear you now. It's only not.
I mean, to be honest, I know that over the years, Bill Kenwright has been on the receiving end of a lot of criticism, which comes from successive poor appointments or poor performances from his appointments.
On the pitch performance, I think, is the ultimate
Yeah,
thing. Yeah, that's the
yeah,
ultimate thing.
and there's so far there's only so much that he can be blamed for. But as the figurehead that sort of steered us for such a long time, you know, that frustration being directed towards him. I mean, like in the same way that certain players, you know, for instance, how Iwobi was treated at one point and had to completely disappear off social media. You know, they are human beings, and he fucking loves the club. He was crying at the end. You know, it's I don't care what anyone says, for all his faults and flaws, that whatever there may be. I'd rather have somebody in charge of the club that is a fan and that really cares about where we go and won't just up sticks for the sake of a profit or
I'm
when the
pretty sure he
going gets.
hasn't. I mean, the cynic, and I'm sorry to say, the cynic will say, Yandalf is a PR dream. And Bill Kenwright, I'm going to get Yandalf on board, and he's going to have this. And obviously, that's what the cynic says, because there's a brainwashed element. Now, the reality is, if something goes wrong, people look for someone to blame in any environment. So it doesn't necessarily mean that he's responsible for the failure of the task, as to quote The Apprentice on Lord Sugar. You know, there's clearly a lot more to it. I mean, I met someone very close friend. I met a lot of people actually in my work, out and about all the time, and they'll give me information. And they said, one person said to me, I'm a personal friend of one of the people who basically run the club. I'm not going to name the name.
Yeah.
But basically, it was Farhad Moshiri completely 150 million% that wanted Rafa Benitez, and the person who he's a friend of and the others, Kenwright, did not want Rafa Benitez at all. So the fact that fans actually blamed, you know, those in charge at the club, not necessarily Moshiri, but maybe Bill Kenwright and others on the board for appointing Rafa, is wrong. Yeah. Because he had nothing to do with it. I mean, you said it yourself, the cheering, the Man City goal and the thing, the diehard Blues, you know, they're desperate for success. So look, people will believe what they want to, and they'll look for someone to blame. For me, I think it does have to stop with the owner, because as sad as it is, ultimately he's had his hand on some of these appointments and some of the recruitment. You look at signings like Cenk Tosun and think, well, that was Farhad Moshiri going to Monaco on a personal scouting mission. Yeah. And then we can't get rid of him for about 4 years. There's been mistakes, but look, I think ultimately with everyone, all of their heart is in the right place. Yeah. But, you know, in business, and Steve runs a successful business, put the right people in the right place and you'll get the right results. If you delegate, you have to delegate. And I'm not quite sure Farhad Moshiri has delegated well at all.
Well, sometimes it's a case of trial and error until it clicks, and especially with so many. I mean, football's a ruthless industry. You know, you can't deny that whether someone's there's always a difference between intent and impact, and it's the same in interpersonal relationships, or you know, just how it works is that you can mean well and fail. And the same way that we, you know, as Evertonians fans, and when we get on the backs of players on the pitch, we don't really care so much if they're not that. Well, we'd like them to be good, but if they're not fantastic, as long as they work and put in the effort and try and demonstrate that they want to, you know, they're actually willing to put in a shift for the shirt, then that's it. And football itself is very cutthroat, where they can get, you know, somebody can be out of a job a couple of months after they've been appointed in any position in a football club. So, you know, they're really putting a shift in. The fact that members of the club, you know, I've been getting messages at sort of 11 o'clock at night. You know, they're still there, really doing their bloody job. They live
and breathe it.
Yeah,
they live and breathe it. They were singing like the fans in there. You know, they were riding every wave. Do they in that direct? Are people shouting out? And is it like being in the Bullens in a weird way, or is it completely nothing?
Well, I think as well, you've got to expect that that there is a correlation of those that are in a position to have a financial interest in the club may well have had a different socio-economic upbringing and background, and whereas and that could be in the upbringing that they're discouraged from outbursts of emotion. However, there was a lovely lady sat next to me who told me at half time, she said, "Oh, it's fantastic having you sat next to me. You get me really fired up," and she's you can tell that she's a fan, but she's quite very well spoken, and I don't want to cast aspersions on anyone based on maybe they might be fortunate, as long as, because people can be good people regardless of their background and what wealth they have or anything like that. But these are people that we shouldn't necessarily exclude from or question their support of the club just because they're more more reserved or maybe express a little bit more of that sort of British decorum of stiff upper lip, and what one mustn't betray one's feelings when the public are watching. And also, you've got to bear in mind that the majority of the time, anything and everything they do is going to be caught on camera. I mean, Astro sent me a screenshot of me stood next to Peter Reid, I think, at full time with a face like thunder when it was 3-2, and I thought, I don't look very photogenic there.
I'd like to see that, actually, if you could share. But obviously the result wasn't right. Steve, thanks for coming on. I know we got slightly sidetracked, but I couldn't really not ask Yandalf about this, because I think the fans really want to know what it's like being in that director's box, what the atmosphere is like, what the people are like. And I think that is very relevant, and it will resonate with the fans to hear that it is more down to earth, and it's probably just like normal people in there who love the club, support the club, who happen to be in those positions. On Crystal Palace, though, Steve, first, before you go, if you can give me 5 more minutes, the players are obviously going to be deflated after Brentford, but it was a freak sort of game. If you look at it in isolation, it was quite freakish. Red cards, stupidity, but we do keep making the same mistakes. We're poor from set pieces. We make individual errors. How can we get rid of the negative feeling ahead of Thursday and really focus on the task in hand, which is 3 points against a team which you'd hope are going to be on the beach, a bit like Southampton were today?
I didn't actually see the Southampton result. What was it? Sorry. Did they win?
They lost 2-1 to the Liverpool.
Oh, you're kidding me. Just trying to stay away from all. Yeah, so basically I think that what really concerned me was that when things didn't go so well, I mean, literally the game, atmosphere-wise, before kickoff, continued for about 15-20 minutes, and then after about 23 minutes, there was a feeling amongst the crowd that translated onto the pitch and vice versa. And what I really want us to do is get behind the Blues, regardless of what's happening. If it's not going our way on Thursday, then we need to find a way of keeping behind the team, because we can't afford this. We're on it's last chance saloon apart from Arsenal. So we can't afford to, and I appreciate everyone was anxious, but we've really got to go in with a bounce. And I just hope that decisions, it was unfortunate, as you say, it was kind of, you can write it. The script could be written. I think we sat with we were talking at half time because I was next to you, talking about how I said it's going to finish 3-2 to Brentford, and you could write that. You could just feel it in the stadium. You just said, I don't think you celebrated the penalty, Ryan, for this reason. You could just feel that the flow of the game just wasn't going our way, and the crowd really picked up on that. So
obviously, if you go to 10 men and you're winning and you know the magnitude of it, you're going to feel really nervous. I mean, I find it extremely hard to get up for it. As you said, that penalty went in, and I kind of just, I went yes, but I knew in my heart of hearts, I thought, fucking hell, we've got no centre backs. We're going to get peppered in the second half. We'd have had Yerry Mina or Michael Keane in that defence. There's absolutely no way we lose the game. I'm sorry, even with 10 men.
Yeah,
everything they would have thrown into the box, we would have dealt with.
You're right. I mean, we had to change formation. We had to reshuffle. We didn't make a change. So we basically had half the defence that are not really in the right positions, Iwobi and Coleman. So there was that, and the crowd felt it. That's the problem, is that the crowd, when they feel it, we don't sing. There was no singing beyond that point. So it was
Because we're
just
so emotional. We are so emotional as a crowd. We are.
adding to the stress and the worry that was going with it. And I think everyone was a bit shocked that we got a goal back and went into 1 at half time. And, there's been a lot of debate about how we should have played, but that game's gone now and we can only go ahead. And I think this game on Thursday, it's probably the most significant home game in recent history. You'd have to probably go back to possibly 1997-8 with the Gareth Fowley goal to find a game of more significance, because if we don't win on Thursday, it's going down to the last game.
Was that Coventry?
Yeah, and I don't think that the last day of the season is anything can happen. It's a bit penalty shootout. Things can go in your favor or they can go against, as we saw on Sunday.
I mean, I wasn't there in '95.
Thursday, like it's the last game. We've got the crowd on the side. We're playing a Palace team that have basically mauled us 7-1 across 2 games. So I'm sure, and I've got confidence that Lampard and his backroom staff have been watching back the Crystal Palace matches, and they've been looking at the mistakes. Unfortunately, we've got lots of things to look at. If we drawn or won those games, we could be going into this game with less respect.
Yeah, I was thinking Southampton today were absolutely dog shite, and if we'd have beaten Southampton, we'd actually be above them by 1 point, and they would be the ones in this mess. We would be safe. I mean, it's the fine margin, Steve. Unfortunately, in every match, there's been something. It's like you stick your hand in a box of chocolates. Oh, today it's the offside goal that never was. Oh, now it's the red card that shouldn't have been. Oh, today it's the set piece problems again. Oh, it's the own goal from Michael Keane, and we're repeating the same cycles. You talked about the Crystal Palace games we lost. We set up reasonably well in that second game, and then our heads dropped and we crumbled. I don't think the crowd are going to allow any sort of slip up against Palace, but we can't account for these freakish things happening, like the red cards and the own goal. We can't account for that. So you just have to go out there and hope that Everton go and give an amazing account for themselves. I'll give you the lowdown on Crystal Palace. By the way, keep your comments coming in. Try and keep them related to this Palace fixture now, and we will go back and look at some of the things before I wrap things up. Palace, the mixed results. I mean, I think we've actually won the same amount of games as them or something. Someone posted a stat
10
like
games.
That.
Yeah, so we've won 10 games as well. They beat Watford, of course. Drew away at Aston Villa. I'm just looking at the recent games. They beat Southampton away. That's not very difficult, but unless you play in blue. Drew at home with Leeds, lost to Newcastle away, lost to Chelsea away, and lost to Leicester away, and beat Arsenal at home. So it's a mixed bag. In terms of injuries for Southampton, bloody hell. For Crystal Palace, James McArthur is out. He might be back. Olise, he's not available, and he's a good player. And Nathan Ferguson. So I've never actually heard of Nathan Ferguson, I'm not going to lie. And for Everton, obviously, we've got a host of problems. As we have had all season, it is the most injuries in the league apart from Watford at the moment. We've got Andros Townsend long term. Solomon Rondon's out for the rest of the season, obviously, with his moronic tackle. Fabian Delph. He's being assessed at the moment. It's unlikely Michael Keane's got a 50 chance due to illness. Van der Beek 50 chance due to injury, and we've not seen anything for weeks. Dele Alli is available. Yeah, I mean, you're missing. Mary Mina's not going to be fit possibly till Sunday. Ben Godfrey touched again, so the squad we saw against, sorry to go on information, the squad against Brentford is going to be pretty much the same team. I expect Michael Keane to come back and Godfrey to be available. But we talked about one player there who hasn't really had much of an impact, arguably. Dele Alli. Is this a chance now for fresh legs? Or
I think I don't know. I think it's very difficult to say when we had such a good run, I think. And I don't know whether the change in the team that came about from Watford to Brentford was that because we were just absolutely so piss poor and didn't capitalise on that, or was it was it a response to the tactics that we expected Brentford to play? Because it just it's unpredictable. It's I mean, do we even really know, aside from speculation, as to why we haven't played him? So I can't say. I mean, maybe it's just a case of throwing it and see what sticks.
Annoyingly, I said, I don't know if you agree, Steve, but Dele Alli, when he came through, had a really good link up with not Calvert Lewin, with Harry Kane. You would think the Calvert Lewin and Dele Alli are a match made in heaven, as a kind of like a number 9, number 10 playing off him. I mean, and then Richarlison buzzing around him, and Anthony Gordon or Damari Gray, who I think are quite similar in their output and productivity. I think there you've got a nice balance. I don't know why he hasn't been given a chance, especially when we've needed a little bit of creativity. Certainly in that Watford away game, that was a massive, massive missed opportunity to play someone like that.
I think so. I think that he wants to, I mean, Lampard's come in quite late into the season and he probably has got his own ideas that have not been properly brought through. He's playing a different style of football to what he probably wants to play right now. It's all about getting the result, not about playing necessarily the right players. It's just about what we need to do to get over the line right now. So if we do get over the line, I'm sure Dele Alli is going to feature as part of Lampard's plans, because Lampard was one of the players that influenced it. Well, one of the people that influenced him as a top midfielder himself to join Everton. But, you know, they've both walked into a difficult situation. Dele's clearly not being fit. He's not been in the Spurs team, and I think he's protecting him, rightly so. I think Lampard is at the moment playing low risk football. And I think that the likes of Van der Beek, if they're 50-50, we know which side of the 50 they'll be on. They won't be playing. So I think that Thursday's going to be too different. I think he'll keep with a continuity. And I think he'll bring in Keane and possibly Godfrey, if he's fit, and then go back to the 5, which worked quite well with Iwobi as a wing back, because that just worked well. Why we capitulated and went so bad in the last 2 games compared to the previous 3, I don't know. I can only think it's to do with a level of respect for Watford and Brentford versus Chelsea and Liverpool and other matches, because we seem to play better against those better teams. But it was an anomaly on Sunday, and I just hope that, you know, things go our way, not just for 20 minutes, but we can stick this out so that it doesn't become a difficult second half, and that if we start the game bouncing like we did, with the fans will be behind, the pyrotechnics will still make their way into the ground, even if they're bad. If we play 5 at the back and 2 or 3 recognised centre-backs, we've got a good chance.
Apparently we're breaking up. I don't know if anyone could confirm that. But the Watford game for me was the one that really wound me up, because I felt like Lampard was too passive. He just kind of played it safe and went, well, we won that game, so we'll keep it. When actually that was a crying out for a 4-4-2, start Calvert-Lewin or start Rondon and really have a go at Watford, because they offered nothing. And they had 10 players out. For me, that was poor management. And I'm not going to sit there and say I'm not criticising a manager, because I'm entitled to do that. That was poor management. He should have brought in Andre Gomez to move the ball in that game. The Brentford game, again, I actually think he set the team up really well. I think we were all over them. And I think in a parallel universe, we've won that game 4-0 or 3-0. Yeah. Absolutely no chance we lose that match with 11 men.
But it comes down to that pivotal moment of the penalty not being given for the shirt pulling. We've not got the 2-goal cushion where you can kind of go, okay, I can close the man or push him out, but you know, or at least sort of give him something to think about before he's taking the shot, rather than make any sort of contact. And you know, when you have that and it doesn't even have a VAR review, you think, you know, you start to, you know, was there a turning point being in the crowd? Was there a sort of was there that sort of moment of being given a terminal diagnosis of like, oh, well, this is just bound to happen then?
It was,
you know,
it was like,
Still should have made the changes, shouldn't he?
As soon as that sending off, as soon as Braithwaite is leaving the pitch, everyone felt that feeling of where this is going. But once Brentford scored, that's really what made the difference, because when they scored, we just knew how it. I think there's a feeling where, particularly with some supporters, is once we concede one, we're quite vulnerable to conceding 2 to 4, and
Mm.
we don't shut up shop. When we're really good is we don't concede. When
Should we have
Pickford,
made the change at half time then and brought on Alan and John Joe Kenny and said, well, we've got 2-1 lead here. We're
I
probably
think
not going to score again.
Alan as a protector, but a lot of people were saying, if you don't leave one up front, they don't push 2 back. But they were running the show anyway. Ericsson run the game for them. They had the extra men, and at this level, if you've got an extra man, you make it work. I wonder if Lampard is doing some work with 10 men against 11 right now, because there's always a chance with the fact that there's so much on the line that we lose a man to disciplinary, going in for tackles that maybe we shouldn't. It looked like we hadn't, how can you plan for
We've
losing one?
played with 10 men. We've played with 10 men on 6 occasions this season.
We had
We've got a serious Yandalf. We've got a serious disciplinary issue, as well as we've talked about the refereeing howlers week in, week out, and we're not
Yeah.
exaggerating that. We've got problems with set pieces defensively. We score own goals. We make a lot of individual errors. Again, Seamus Coleman with the own goal. You could say he couldn't do anything about it, but it's a theme. And then you've got this problem, this problem we're talking about now. What can we do about it?
If I knew that, I'd probably be putting in an application for the coaching staff at Finch Farm.
That's the next step up for you.
I think sometimes it's very difficult when you, as Stevie quite rightly said, Lampard's playing defense or low risk football because it's about the fundamentals and it's about getting the results. Because if you play the style of football that you want to play and as a team you gel, then the confidence comes and the results come on the back of that. And
I'm talking more about disciplinary issues here.
Yeah, but I was just going to say, but that kind of leads into what I was saying, that if they don't have that confidence because we've seen plenty of times when when players should be more incisive or should take a shot and go forward. So there's clearly a confidence issue based on cumulative impact of our poor performances this season. So maybe that's being fired up and knowing that it's desperate, but not having the confidence to sort of keep your head. Sometimes it's a case of playing it cool and just knowing that you can do this and do that and that it's not the end of the world. And sometimes, for instance, Branthwaite didn't necessarily do anything wrong. He didn't lunge in, but knowing that he had to do that, I mean, is it the end of the world to concede a goal or to let him take a shot rather than bring him down?
Well, you said it yourself. He didn't know what he was doing.
It's all done in such a quick moment. I mean, it literally was a moment between the Richarlison and that going up the field. So it's all done so quickly that we can't say, oh, you should have stopped and done this. It's just done instinctively. And I think it comes with more experience that maybe Coleman or something would have stayed on his feet. It's unfortunate that we had Keane, who didn't take place in the game. And then we had Braithwaite as one or two centre-backs in the game lose. And then we were playing with 5. Yeah, the confidence is a big thing. I said this on a previous episode that what Everton have got into is almost a habit of losing and a habit of
20 defeats a season.
When you have a chronic losing habit, it's so easy to go out losing, just like another team that we know that play in red keep going out and winning even when they don't play well. We would go out and even if we played reasonably well, we'd lose. We just had this confidence issue. We've had it all season. You can feel the anxiety of the fans, and then during the Rafa Benitez era, which was very short-lived anyway, that translated onto the pitch. Yeah, short-lived, but long at the same time. But that translated onto the pitch. We kept losing games. The fans were divided. That you could feel it on the pitch. You could feel it in the crowd. You could probably feel it on the pitch. Now we've got the positive impact of the way that the crowd had come in on as a 12th man. And the players can feel that, but they haven't got the confidence. I
don't know. I don't know. They've got an ability to turn it on against these Chelsea's and Man Uniteds and Leicester's. Okay, the football is quite basic, and you'd argue we're 10 games too late in doing that. I knew that straight away.
It's all breaking up since Luca Dean left. Everton's play has been pretty much 4 square. It's been really boring. And you can basically watch a half an hour video of Everton and then put Neighbours on because whatever you want to watch, because you just don't need to do that much homework on Everton. They're very predictable in the way that we play. And we've not started with the front three that went like a house on fire with Damari Gray, Andros Townsend, and Calvert-Lewin. We're not starting with that sort of format. Richarlison is a great player. He plays better off a player, but Calvert-Lewin's, there's been a catalogue. The reality is there's been a catalogue of problems all season.
Okay,
This is just about getting over the line now on Thursday.
this
1-0.
match on Thursday. Just because we can talk about all this other stuff, we could probably sit here for 2 hours talking about the whole season and everything. I'm sure there'll be an inquest regardless of what happens. I'm just thinking, I'm listening to this and it's very, very good and very, very interesting. But we're here to talk about Crystal Palace. Palace have got a lot of movement in the Pacey Zaha. They've got a few more wingers now who are doing the same sort of thing. They've got the same vibe about them. You've talked about Everton being predictable. We don't really have a style of play. Are we long ball? Are we short ball? Are we playing triangles? We don't really do anything. I don't really know what we do. But one thing I think we are good at is a very aggressive style of play. What I liked against Brentford was the two strikers. Richarlison was sort of left centre forward. He was playing, he had to track back on the left without play. But
like
he
a
was
false nine.
Sort of. He had license to go and be right next to Calvert-Lewin instead of being Calvert-Lewin. I'm there, Richarlison there, and Damari Gray there. And then two midfielders because we've got 5 at the back. And it's just very much like Sabutio with no one near each other, helping each other out. This Crystal Palace game, I would like to see Calvert-Lewin start again if he's fit and have Richarlison in really tight on him and say, and do what we did against Brentford. And let's just not make the same mistake because I don't think Crystal Palace have got the best centre halves. I don't think I'm looking at them and thinking, wow, your defense is elite. If they were, they'd be higher in the table. I think going forward, they've got a lot of pace. How can we stop that? How can maybe we could stop the counter-attacks at source? Can we intercept the midfield? Can we disrupt them a bit more? And the way to do that, I don't think, is to play 5. I think if we play 5, it'll become a flat 5. We'll have the 2 in midfield and we'll get passed around a bit like we did at Selhurst Park twice this season. So I actually want to see us bring the 3rd man in. I want Iwobi as the 3rd man in midfield with Doucouré and Allan, or Doucouré and Delph, depending on who's available, and try and take a bit of control like that, rather than just saying, "Oh, we're going to sit back. You're going to come at us, and we're going to score anyway."
But do you not want to? Do you not think it might be useful? I mean, Zaha is more often than not is instrumental to Palace's attacks, whether it's goal scoring or creating on the wing. And I think if we've got a player like Iwobi who can track back and he's got the legs to take part in the attack and defend against him, yeah, who knows? Because we don't.
Yeah, Dalf, there's a temptation there if Godfrey is available to go, okay, Michael Keane, one side, Holgate and Godfrey as the sort of sided centre-backs. And that, in theory, should work as a back 3. If we're playing a back 3, but we're not playing a back 3, we're playing a back... If it was a back 3, it would be like Chelsea did in the FA Cup final, where Alonso is not a defender and Reece James is not defending. They are wingers and they've still got the 2 side players cutting in, and it's effectively like 4 behind a striker. We're not. We're playing. It becomes a flat 5. If Iwobi's up the pitch, then fantastic. It works. I don't think we are going to do that. Lampard obviously knows what he's going to do. And what I would say to him if he asked me what to do, I'd say, look, are we sitting back and we waiting to counter on Palace? If so, fine, do the 5. It becomes a 5-4-1. Do the 5. We've got someone out there as a wing back who can go and match the Crystal Palace winger and still have the security of one of the centre backs on either side to cover that space and also cover the centre. That makes sense. But if we're going to go and attack, and I think really, ultimately, we've got to win the game. Now, are we going to go and win by being pragmatic, getting a set piece, shutting up shop, playing for Palace's mistakes, or are we going to win by playing beautiful football? I don't see the beautiful football element. So there's an argument for being very, very solid, but can we do that without playing into Palace's hands? How do we stop them? They haven't got many injuries, but at the same time, Yandalf, they've got nothing to play for. And Everton have got everything to play for.
Yeah, I mean, you wonder if that gives them the freedom, like I said, with relegated teams, like when we've played them in the past. Well, not that they've got nothing to play for, except for the fact that they should give everything for 90 minutes, maybe. But the fact that they might have that freedom to know that there's nothing on the line, that they're winning or losing, they know where they are. But I mean, we're missing the kind of players that used to be able to drop in the middle of defence, and so we are kind of limited in that regard. And a lot of our play now is.
I think we miss a link-up player as well.
Yeah, I mean, Andre Gomez had that promise. He's not been the player since he had his broken leg, but to see him actually play with a certain amount of confidence and sort of lope with the ball and be able to look for it. But even so, he wasn't looking for the incisive forward passes. It was still, back to Mykolenko, or or back to the centre backs and play it wide. And it's like you say, it becomes a bit predictable. But having said that, it's better to retain possession than to maybe. I don't know.
So
can do it all night.
Even when it's 11 against 11, it feels like it's 10 against 11 with Everton. It feels like we've not got that spare pass, that we haven't got the runners, and that the next pass is so predictable. It's all down to confidence. It's the reason why Mykolenko's not on the byline in the top left-hand corner.
Yeah.
It's the reason why Iwobi's not running down the channel there and he's having to track back. It's the reason why the defense are backpedaling half the time. It's because we've conceded so many goals all season that have been, if you take something like, I think the Watford home game that we lost 5-2, it's just we've been shipping goals.
Functional. The whole thing is dysfunctional. And that's what happens when you have 5 different managers bringing in 5 different people.
And to be honest, it's you get Alan in there and he does track around a lot, and we missed him, I think, in that game. I think he should have.
We missed an Icelandic record signing, in my opinion, because the link-up play and the issue with the set pieces. We've got no one who can take a corner. We've got no one who can take any sort of set piece from open play or a corner.
Conceding wise, we've improved, and that says a lot because we've just basically let 2 identical goals in. We've improved a lot. That's down to Clement. He's been doing work with the team. You can see that we're better. I think we had 13 corners that we defended against Liverpool, and they didn't concede from the corners. So
we had 13 corners at Watford and didn't score.
Yeah, but anyway, I'm just to highlight that the defense is better than it was when it comes to conceding goals from set pieces. But Brentford was obviously a difficult situation. However, we have a chronic issue all season with all sorts of things, and when it just goes from bad to worse. There's elements that we can blame, but ultimately it's down to what the players do on the pitch, and the players have been collectively unacceptably poor, and that's why we're in this position. We can't blame VAR and the referees. It's the players. The players have not been good enough, and it's not always been their fault. We've had injuries, we've lost momentum. When you're not playing with the same centre back or the same centre forward or the same front 3 combo, you're losing all of that continuity that we would get.
But Steve, can we establish, even though you've said injuries, set pieces, individual errors, own goals, bad refereeing decisions, these are all things together, but ultimately we are a bit shit. I mean, that is the reality of it. They're crap. Collectively, they're not great. We're sitting at, it's a reality of it, isn't it, Yanov? They're not, it's not a good football team.
It's not, well, it's no, and individually they might be good players as well. But when we've gone from manager to manager, Koeman, and Silva and Benitez, and they've all tried to sort of make a mark and have their flagship signings and create a different style of football. We've had players.
It's like a patchwork quilt.
Yeah, and it's like trying to have a fruit salad, a Waldorf salad, a chicken salad, and jam it all together and still call it a tasty salad. It's going to taste like shit.
In buffet.
The Taipan.
Yeah, food poisoning. I mean,
it's the world buffet.
Yeah,
you're right. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
They're playing like a championship team. If we can get through and get another season in the Premier League,
we're just trying to be realistic. We've lost 20 games. We've lost 22, including the thingy games. It's been unbearable. I can't wait for the season to finish. I tell you, if Everton stay up on Sunday and Man City win the league, I'm booking a holiday Sunday night and I'm going away on Monday. I'm going to Mallorca or Benidorm or Portugal or Cyprus. I'm going on thebeach.com and I'm fucking getting out of here because I'm sick of it.
I know.
I'm sick of talking about it.
It's heart attack inducing. But if the players do not realise that that fucking Goodison deserves more than its last season being Championship football, they need to be get gone and fucking out, because that pisses me off. It breaks all of our hearts to have to leave that and to think that we're not going to play our last football in there in the Premier League. Oh
no, that's the real Yandalf. Yandalf's trying to be very composed, but that last 2 minutes of that is Yandalf.
We've had
We've got loads of
54 minutes
comments.
of
I know.
Gandalf.
We did say we'll have 15 or 20 minutes on, but it's been a fantastic
Oh,
stream.
no,
Like if you agree, I know there's 40 people watching 11:30 at night. Thanks for watching.
There's been a lot of frustrated Evertonians out there. We speak for you, and what can we say? Well, I'm sure it'll be a debrief when Ryan's back from Benidorm, but for now, let's just focus on Thursday. If we can just remain positive, get behind the Blues. If it's not going well, if it's still 0-0 at halftime, if we have man sent off, we've just got to keep behind the team, because it's really the drop in atmosphere that contributed towards the inevitable result in the end.
yeah.
I think we had to at halftime against Brentford go, well, we're shutting up shop. If we're shutting up shop, it's John Joe Kenny and Alan, or we're going to go for it. We did nothing. We did neither shut up shop or go for it.
That would have been moans from the crowd saying, why have you done that? So you can't please everyone.
Well, he's got to be decisive. He's the manager. Listen. We're nearly at an hour. Steve, good night. I know you need to go to bed. I'm going to go to the comments anyway.
Thanks,
take
guys.
care. Go and get your
Good to see you, Steve.
My brother, he's just gone back to London today. He's been up. He's had a day from hell as well. So, Yandalf, you're welcome to go as well. I'm only reading the comments out. You can come and sit with me if you like to. I know you love talking about Everton.
All I'm going to do is sit in the dark in my bedroom and cry about this abusive relationship that I can't leave no matter how much it fucking hurts.
No, I'm sick of it as well. You know what? I'll be honest with you, and I'm sorry to say this because I know you all love to watch the show. Everyone, we've got 1,100 subscribers now. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button for us and turn the bell on. That's really good in 12 months of having the channel. But can I just say, look, if I didn't have the channel, I probably would completely just switch off from it. I wouldn't check social media. I wouldn't do anything because it really is very draining. On Monday morning, I really didn't want to get out of bed. And you can ask Jasmine. I've been like a bird with a sore head. As soon as this thing finishes, I am off. I've had enough. The people in the comments, we've got all the regular watchers, Barry, Mark, etc., etc. I know some people will be watching it back. Thank you very much. We've done the stream a little bit earlier than we might have done it Wednesday night, but I think this gives more of an opportunity to watch it than it would have because people are in work. When are they going to be able to see it? I know our last video got 2,500 views on YouTube, which was fantastic. So we've got a lot of people watching. I'm not sure we're watching for the right reasons, everyone, but we'll keep it going. And we'll be back here on. I'm working Saturday. It's probably going to be Friday night. I'm sorry. It's going to be Friday night when I do the match preview for the Arsenal game. Okay, comments. Let's go through these quickly. I'll direct them at you, Jan, if I feel like this is relevant to discuss. But just because there's probably 100 comments here, I don't want to fixate too much. Brian saying it's a shame fans turn up like we do because we fight to stay out of a relegation battle. This is a brilliant comment, Brian. Why do we give, and I'm sorry, and I don't want to piss anyone off, but this is spot on, Yandalf. This is annoying. And we have to give the players a hero's welcome when the reality is they probably don't deserve it. I'm really sorry, but this is the worst season in Premier League history. They don't really deserve this hero's welcome, but we have no choice. We're compelled to do something. Yeah,
because if we don't, then they do end up being, ignominious losers that fade into obscurity. Give them give them the chance to be the heroes that we need them to be. Right? They might not deserve it, but think about it in terms of a relationship as well. Right? Somebody who might be a bit hurt or might carry the trauma of the past, whether that's the past of the season, this season, or where they come from, the previous clubs. You've got to create a safe and supportive and loving environment so people feel it's okay to grow. And they're not going to grow if we're constantly on the back. Like I say, if somebody's in an office or a warehouse,
your rosemary grows.
Yeah, but if somebody's in a warehouse or an office or driving a van or anything like that, and they've got 40,000 people going, "You fucking shit, pack it in, go home, you piece of shit," like you're gonna be like, "What am I doing? I don't want this."
Yeah, but the reality is, I mean, I'm 28, nearly 29 in November. I don't know how old you are. I think you might be similar age to Steve. My brother, he's in his late 30s, or am I clutching at straws? He is 39,
No,
Steve.
I'm 35 in about 2 and a bit weeks.
Okay, so you're not that you're in mid to late 30s coming up to, and you've seen Everton do something,
What?
and I haven't seen Everton do anything. But I know, well, the Cup 1995. I suppose it's clutching at straws. You'd have been 10 years old, but it's very difficult for me. As a 28-year-old, I've not seen Everton do anything. The closest I've seen is the 2009 FA Cup final, where our current manager scored the winner. So it's quite insufferable. It's like some sort of sick joke. But you've also sat through 19. Well, you still would have been quite young, wouldn't you? The relegation sort of battle 96. Do you remember that at all?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'd have been about 9 years old. I mean, I remember my dad going to the odd game and just being absolutely miserable. You know what? We'll get Uncle Daniel in on this one if you want, because he can remember some of the. Come on,
Uncle Daniel. Uncle Daniel, love it.
Come on,
Uncle
sit
Daniel.
down.
Do you want to hear?
Oh Christ,
Cousin
no,
Daniel.
no.
Cousin Daniel.
Very
Hi,
quickly.
Daniel. Hi, Daniel. How are you?
Haircut.
No,
Did you enjoy? Yeah, your hair looks great. Did you enjoyed going the match with Jazz on? Obviously, the result was shite, but you was she loud? Very loud.
Yeah. It was good.
It was nice. You got rid of your son and sent him up to the director's box.
That's it. We were talking about relegation battles, were you?
Yandolf, the question. Go on.
Oh yeah, basically, like, what's my recollection of? Well, very little, but Wimbledon 94, Coventry 98, 96, all these. Yeah.
Daniel, does this have the same feel about it? Does this feel different to that time? Because the reason I ask you is because we've got money now. We didn't have any money then.
I think I'd given up in 94. I thought we were going down. Really did. I mean, this one's been up and down. Moments when I thought we were going and moments when I thought we were going to be saved. It's in our hands. It didn't feel like it was in our hands then. And that was probably my worst experience. This isn't much better. I'll tell you how I feel on Thursday night. But at least we still have the opportunity to match or better Leeds' result on Sunday, come what may. Whatever happens tomorrow.
Don't want to clutch at straws here, but I'm trying to stay positive.
Yes.
It doesn't look like Leeds are gonna. I don't want to say it. You know what I'm thinking. Well, then they don't. Leeds are also like us, doing things that relegated teams do, which is we get our players sent off, we make stupid mistakes, we don't make the substitutions at the right time, etc., etc. They have got all the hallmarks of a relegated team. Unfortunately, 90% of the games we are the same. Burnley have got Aston Villa, who they lost 3-1 to. And I think they play Newcastle as well. So there's a chance we might not even need to do anything. I know we can't contemplate that. No one wants to be sat here at 4 o'clock or I think 2 o'clock. I'm not actually sure what time the game is on Sunday.
6 o'clock when it finishes.
We don't want to be sat needing to beat Arsenal. We need to get the job done on Thursday. Now, just going back to what I said about the feel, we've spent 600 million over this period. When in 1995, when you were talking about it, we had no money. We were the paupers of the league, and you'd almost expect to get relegated with those kind of budgets. But now, surely this feels worse because we've spent an absolute fortune. Your expectation level has been raised, your hope and aspiration has been raised, and ultimately, it's nothing short of a disaster.
It has been a pretty dreadful campaign, particularly between October and March, or something like that, when they could barely muster a point, and nothing away from home, of course, and shooting themselves in the foot.
Capitulating.
Yeah, often that as well. There have been so many games where they offered almost nothing. Perhaps they were hanging on for 0-0 and they didn't.
I'd say pretty much every game we've offered almost nothing. I mean, I always say on Twitter, Everton fans should be multimillionaires because it's the easiest team to predict and bet on. As I said, you stick your hand in the jar, like the lottery. What you getting this week? Michael Keane will score an own goal, and Everton will concede from a set piece. Next week, the referee will make a glaring error, which will lead to Everton losing them. You know, it almost seems like you're picking the same things out on a rotation. Everton concede from their own corner. You know, it's unbearable.
Well, my dad made a very good point about he could
Sure.
almost see when it's 2-1 and then 2-2 and 3-2. He said 3-2 seems to be a cursed score for us.
Except for the '66 Cup final and the Wimbledon comeback, yes. I can't. There's so many times Everton have thrown away a 2-goal lead when they could have won the league. I mean, Lampard and Drogba did it to us a few years ago. We lost a cup tie at Forest. We lost a League Cup final to Villa 3-2.
Oh God!
Everton 3-2 is burned into my memory as just a tragedy. A number of tragedies. You know.
Yeah. Don't be saying that too loud, because I think you'll be betting on the 3-2 on Thursday. But look, it's sad. It's a sad reality that the only 3-2 I'm thinking of is one where Roberto Martinez decided to bring on Umar Niasse when we were 2-0 up or something to defend the lead, and we ended up losing 3-2 at Goodson. I don't know if you remember that game. Umar Niasse, he brought him on, a striker. We were winning, and we ended up losing 3-2.
Who was that against?
I don't know, but there's
it's not the West Ham game when we were 2 up with a penalty and conceded a red card. Was it Morales? Morales gets sent off. We're 2-0 up. Lukaku's got a penalty for 3-0, and yes, we lose 3-2 to West Ham. There you go. There's another one.
What? We are
Cheers.
We're the experts at it. You can sit on this as well and just quickly whiz through these comments if you want to discuss them with me. Here you go. Eugene's asking it there and there. Come on, Daniel, answer this for me. Do you think Everton will do the Great Escape at Palace in your heart of hearts?
I think they'll win 1-0.
You think they'll win 1-0? Okay.
I think we will win 1-0.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Would you play Dele Alli?
No.
No. Okay.
Why? Well, I suppose it depends who's available. He hasn't shown any inclination to be a starter so far.
Yeah, but that could be. We've discussed that. That could be for reasons that Lampard knows, because he was obviously instrumental or pivotal in bringing him here. It could be
the
a risk,
formation. There's none of these formations. Neither 4-3-3 or 5-4-1 or 3-5-4-3 works. But actually, just thinking about that, the 3-4-3, could he not play at the tip of the three and have 2 holders behind him? You know, like we talked about Calvert-Lewin, Ali behind. You know,
I believe Palace have got a 4-man midfield.
Palace will play 4-3-3. They've got wingers.
4-3-3, and they've got
yeah, that's why I said we need to either match them up, or if we're playing to be pragmatic and wait for them to make a mistake, then he'll probably go 5 at the back. He's very passive. Alan will be key here. This is from Wanderlust. What do you think of that? Would you start Alan if Delph's not available?
Delph isn't available. I'd definitely start a defensive midfielder of some description.
One that can defend, preferably.
Yeah, one that can defend or help. I don't know if it's Tom Davis. He's not fit, is he?
Was he on the bench?
He was on the bench.
I meant match fit, really.
Yeah.
Alan looks to be the only option if we've got no Delph.
Obviously, if Leeds lose or draw, we are safe. That's a fact.
Yes.
Brentford, are they good? I mean, as I said before, I think we'd have battered them.
Oh
no! If Leeds lose or draw, we're safe. They play Brentford. They play
Brentford are a good
away.
side, but what incentive have they got to beat Leeds if we're racially abusing their players? And I mean, fortunately, this racial abuse appears to have happened, unfortunately, after the game. You know, when I heard, Brentford have got players, mothers in the crowd, I just thought, perhaps somebody's called somebody a pretty disgusting name and it's offended their mother. Which I understand what that term might be, and so that's pretty bad, because people do that to footballers all the time when the game's going. But clearly, somebody after the match has finished and we've lost the game has lost their head and insulted him and probably called him something pretty horrible. And his mother must have been, close by. If it was personally directed at them, that's pretty awful. If it was, and it's not much. It's not much better if he was directed at the footballer himself in anger because Everton have thrown away the opportunity to get points, and it's terrible, you know.
Hopefully that the club will deal with it a bit like they dealt with the Lucozade bottle that nearly killed Luca Dean.
Nearly killed Luca Dean, yeah.
Yeah. We've got some more comments coming in. If you'd like to, would you like to stay on the stream and just for these last 5 minutes? Because
if you can read them out,
asking the questions. This is from one of our regulars, WKD Dublin. He's saying goals required. Bench against Brentford had no goal scoring subs. What's happened to Lewis Dobbin? We need to turn Palace and push them back for long periods. 1-0 win, and my heart doctor visits are over. So, I mean, he's asking about Lewis Dobbin. I think the task in hand, obviously, with it being a relegation battle, probably got a bit too big for blooding a youngster. And you'd think fresh next season, if we do stay up, we'll see a lot of things evolving. Maybe Michaelenko running to the byline because there's less pressure on these sorts of things, and players like Lewis Dobbin getting a break.
Ellison's coming back from Scotland.
Well, yeah, I think hopefully he can replace Cenk Tosun's role in the squad.
Who have we got for centre halves available for Thursday?
Michael Keane was ill. Ben Godfrey was 50-50 for the last game, I was told. So you're hoping he's more 80-20 now. And the thing is, I just think you get this Palace game done. We can't really look at Arsenal. Ironically, I do think Arsenal are a bit flaky. I don't think they're vintage Arsenal. I think they have actually overachieved. If you look at the squad, they don't scream class. I don't really see anything there that makes me really fearful. And even their star players, I think one of them who plays right wing,
is it Nketiah?
Saka. He just does the same thing every time. He's not particularly quick, and he just cuts in on his left foot. Hopefully, there's some sort of game plan involved, but potentially it'll be Keane, Godfrey, and Holgate. Daniel, I think Mina is probably not going to play again this season by the looks of it.
No, not even on Sunday.
There's an outside chance for Sunday, but I really hope there's no sentiment shown to any of them in the summer. And I think it's thanks, you're fantastic, but we need players who can stay fit. We can't afford 120 grand a week players who play a handful of games, and you can't build any momentum with it. As good as Mina is, as good as Calvert-Lewin is, they would be two. I'd be saying, okay, you can go for the right offer, as well as everyone who's available and everyone who's got a contract expiring. Thank you. You can leave as well. And then there'd be others like Alan, Dele Alli. There's a list. There's very few. I mean, we said that on the last stream. It'd be easier to say who we'd keep.
Right.
Go on. Sorry.
No, I'm going to say, and I'm going to get stick from this, and you probably get people calling me out over it. Tom Davies. I love the lad, and he knows what it means to play for the club. Yeah. And Anthony Gordon's not going anywhere anyway, so
Well, Anthony Gordon's definitely not going anywhere, and I think if you stick him in a really good team, he plays well. He was playing for Man City. You'd be looking at his stats and thinking, bloody hell, fantastic. Tom Davies, obviously you need squad players. You've got to have a squad. You've got to have someone who's just content with being a bit part player, because you can't have a bunch of egos who all want to start at the same time. It doesn't work. Michael Grant is saying Everton need to show some control with Alan, Delph and Gomez, a bit like Newcastle did, and they'll beat Arsenal with ease. Arsenal look exhausted. He's also saying Benitez was given no money.
I think. Have you seen the video online of the Arsenal fan in the box, like going absolutely mental at Arsenal at Newcastle? So Arsenal they'll be even more exhausted if they have to walk back from Newcastle.
Yeah, but he was saying they can walk home. Yeah, I did see it. Hilarious.
To be fair, they've been competing, and pushing to constantly stay ahead, against Spurs and Chelsea, and try to keep pushing on for that place. And I think losing some of the players that they did and sending some out on loan and then relying on I think they are.
I think the Arsenal situation definitely improved for us when they lost last night, because they're behind Spurs. If they were level or ahead of Spurs, they'd have a massive incentive to beat us. They probably think Norwich will lose to Spurs. Spurs will win at that game. And they've had two very bad results on the bounce against Spurs and Newcastle, and it will be gnawing at them that they started the season with 3 losses, and they could well finish the season with 3 losses. And at the end of the day, I'm not sure their heart's going to be in it after the last 2 results. So there is something there for us if it comes down to the last day crisis. We're not playing a team that is massively up for that day, albeit our record there is pretty awful, apart from last season. So I think there's some hope for us on Sunday if we need something.
Look, we don't want it to go down to Sunday,
No.
and there's so many variables. Obviously, Burnley could lose the 2 games, Leeds could lose or draw, and we're fine without kicking a ball. We need to beat Palace. If we don't, you're right. Arsenal aren't vintage Arsenal, and I do think them losing helps because they'll know psychologically Norwich are not beating Spurs. Spurs are going to turn Norwich over. If it was a team that they felt like maybe could get something from Spurs, I think it would be in their mind. But I think they'll know Spurs are going to win, and it's over for them, and their heads will be down. The fans are going to be furious because it's Arsenal,
especially the minute Spurs score a couple of goals, things will turn quite sour.
Yeah, in the crowd, everything's gonna, it's going to be pretty horrific within the stadium in terms of the fan base, and hopefully the players will feel really deflated. Let's whiz through these last comments. There's loads. I've got to skip through them. There's a Liverpool fan who commenting every few minutes about the Champions League and stuff. I mean, Anthony 94. What's the point, mate? Have you got nothing better to do? Just absolutely pointless. Come on, Leeds and Burnley. He's saying, let's ignore him. Go to Rob. Rob's saying, evening lads from Belfast. Evening, Rob. Hit the like button for us. He said, I said before Christmas we are down, and I still believe that, but Frank has to be allowed to build next season. Please, come on, let's not be too negative. Come on, we're trying to keep our head up. Peter's saying we just need a point from the 2 games, providing Leeds fail to get 3. Believe in the Blues. I think even if they draw, I think they're level on points with us. So if we don't even actually need a point. Because of the goal difference, Peter, they've got a stupid goal difference. I think minus 38.
Don't you think? Yeah. Don't you think what's worth considering tomorrow or Thursday night is the mere fact that a point is no use to us?
Yeah, it's absolutely useless.
Means we can afford to go for it. If we're going to lose, we need to lose trying against Palace. A point is no use to us because that just puts us 2 ahead of Palace and Burnley as things stand at the moment, 3 ahead of Burnley without their result coming in. So at the end of the day, a point is no use to Everton on Thursday night because a Leeds win requires us to win on Sunday. So we have to go for it against Palace because losing is no different to drawing.
Hang on 1 second, Daniel. We're a point ahead of Leeds.
Yes.
If we draw,
right,
we go 2 ahead of Leeds. So if they win, we would need 1 point again at Arsenal, and we'd still be safe.
I think
it's not ideal, but
we have to assume that the worst case scenario is we haven't got enough points if Leeds win on Sunday. You don't want to be going to Arsenal to get the point. We want to be getting the 3 points on Thursday. Yeah. Knowing that the point may make no difference.
Game theory.
Okay.
Yeah.
You'd have taken this scenario 3 weeks ago, wouldn't you?
I took it 8 weeks ago.
Yeah, because it was really that bad. I'm being asked what time the press conference is tomorrow. He normally does it about 1:30. Eddie Nketiah, Everton target. I'm not sure. People talking about Xhaka for Arsenal, very easily targeted. He gets wound up quite easily. We need to have someone running at him. There's a lot of stuff. I think we're just repeating ourselves, unfortunately. So with that in mind, and obviously the fact we've been on here a long time, we're going to wrap things up. Otherwise, you're going to have to start pinning your eyes open.
Misery likes company, right?
Ryan, I just want to go on record with my prediction before the Manchester United game. Please. I predicted that Burnley would overtake us, which is pretty much you saw that happen. I predicted that they would then fall behind us. We would be safe against Palace after the Palace game, and we would lose on Sunday, and it wouldn't matter.
Okay,
that was my prediction.
I'll say that right now. I'll take that right now. I hope you're right. So you go with 1-0.
37.
Excellent. Yeah. Thanks, Daniel.
All right.
Yandel, you're trying to boot him off. I mean, I find it weird calling you. I know your real name. I was just about to call you your real name. I was like, shit. I don't want to say it on here in case you're keeping this alias going.
Yeah.
But I'm sure your dad knows why you're going as that, and he's thinking,
Yeah,
why is
it's
Ryan
all right.
calling me on? If that's okay with you. Wanda, no. There was no problem with anything you said. It was fantastic. You've been amazing all stream. Thank you so much. I've read your comments. You're talking about ruthless pragmatism. This one in particular, no hate, no love. It's important. It's for the long term of the benefit of the club. We need to show no sentiment, I think, this summer. Thanks for watching, Wonderless. Thanks, Peter, Rob, everyone else on the stream. Much appreciated. Hit the like button and subscribe. I know there's 30 of you still watching live here at almost midnight on a Tuesday. There must be something better to do now. So we're going to let you go. Yandalf, thank you very much. I was really good to hear about what happened in the director's box and your experience. I hope you do manage to get back in there at some point next season, and you become a friend of the club. You should probably apply to go on the fans forum or something like that. I think you'd be very good for it. Thank you very much for all your comments.
Yeah, thank you very much to everyone who's watching. It's been a pleasure. It's always a pleasure coming on and talking a bit of sense. Yeah.
And you've got over 3,000 followers now on Twitter. You had about 60 or something when I first saw your account, 200 or 300.
It's absolutely mental. I do appreciate everyone who's following me, everyone who likes the poetry, everyone who's sharing it, and being really supportive. And it's fantastic. Honestly, it's amazing. And I know it might seem like empty words, but everything I'm doing, everything I'm writing, is for the club. Because my first words, I was 7 months old, and I was at my grandma's, and I watched my dad. My dad had gone to the Everton game, and I was at my grandma's, and Everton just scored. And it was January of 1988, and the camera panned to the crowd, and my first words was, watching all the Evertonians celebrate, my first word was "Dada," and it's been in my blood since Kevin Sheedy, 1988. What was it? 1-0 against Forest. There you go. That was my first word.
He's an encyclopedia, isn't he? He's an absolute encyclopedia here, Dad. Thanks. Let's get things wrapped up. I'll speak to you soon. Try and come on if you want for the Arsenal game before or after. Up to you. And hopefully either way, I'll get you on for a post-season review, and really we can have a look at this shit show in greater detail. Hopefully, having survived, we can look back at some of these games and talk about them as something we can hopefully laugh at in a few years' time, rather than putting us in this crisis. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you on Friday at some point for the Arsenal game. Take care. Thank you.